place here?
Do I see a plan?
Yeah.
I mean, I see a road to, you know, what we could do, but you know, it's a difference in we can do this and we can do that and actually doing it.
Do you have an appetite for building that way if it's, you know, a 19-year-old player through the draft, or does it need to be?
I don't have much of an appetite for building and, you know, guys 2 and 3 years away from really going after it.
The Portland Trailblazers know they have a decision to make. Either make one last all-in push to try to win a championship with the few remaining years of Damian Lillard's prime, their franchise player who they have been very loyal to, and likewise Dame to Portland, playing his entire career with the organization, or do they cut the cord, start fresh, trigger a rebuild, and start focusing on the future, a future without Damian Lillard? Dame has already said he doesn't have an appetite for playing on a team that is years out from competing. That doesn't interest him at this stage in his career. Like, as loyal as he's been and always remaining firm in wanting to play out his career in Portland with no interest in going to another team, this is the first time where Dame has been pretty explicit to the front office. You put a contending roster around me, or I'm going to be requesting a trade. Obviously not saying that explicitly, but I think you can all read between the lines. And then, after the Blazers jumped up in the lottery, securing the 3rd pick in this upcoming draft, you've heard a mix of reactions among fans saying the Blazers should trade that pick, package it in a deal to return a legit star player or star players in return to complement Dame to try and get the Blazers into title contention. Because in a stacked draft class like this one, you know you could get a pretty solid return with the 3rd pick. While on the other hand, some fans and analysts are saying the Blazers would be crazy to trade that pick when it could net them a future franchise player. How they should not be prioritizing Damian Lillard, who is set to become 33 this summer and is on one of the most expensive long-term contracts in the league. You absolutely have to trade Dame because you know there will be teams bidding for him, given the package deals teams have received sending out players like Rudy Gobert and DeJounte Murray. For a superstar like Lillard, you can expect to obtain even more than that. Well, maybe not what the Jazz got for Gobert, because the Timberwolves are insane and no one would fetch that type of trade package unless you're a top 5 player in the league. But regardless, Damian Lillard, arguably a top 10, certainly a top 15 player in the NBA, you can get a lot for him in a trade if you're the Blazers. And so the question is, what do the Blazers do? What makes the most sense given their current roster, the assets they have before them, and thinking about their short and long-term future? And that's what we'll be talking about in this video. If you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, then do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. And in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, it is important to call out, it's been reported anyway, that the Blazers front office is looking to shop the 3rd pick, and their goal is to maximize the timeline they have with Damian Lillard and winning a championship with him. Doesn't mean that they're going to trade the pick, but they will be taking calls to see what teams have to offer. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what fans or analysts want or think makes sense for them. The front office is going to do what they feel is best for the organization. I've said it before, for me personally, I think the Blazers would be better off trading Lillard, getting a big haul for him, developing their young players and starting fresh, because if we're going to be honest, I don't see the Blazers winning a championship with Lillard. I don't see a path in which they can create the right pieces around him to win a title. And it would be different if, say, Dame was 27 or 28 and you had some time to figure it out and get multiple shots at it. But with the window closing on Damian Lillard and his prime and his ability to compete for a championship now, and given as of right now the Blazers' timeline is all over the place with Lillard in his 30s on a long-term deal, Nurkic on a bad contract at 28, Jeremy Grant set to be a free agent, he's about to be 30, and then you have a bunch of young players who actually have a lot of promise. They just need to pick a direction. Go the youth movement route, develop those guys, or you trade the young players for win-now pieces. To me, the latter direction makes the most sense. Get as much draft capital and young players as you can by trading Lillard and focus on building with the young talent. But if we're being honest, we know the front office is going to go in the other direction and still try and cling on to this idea that they can win a championship with Lillard. But is that actually what Dame wants? If you asked me this last season, I would have said, no doubt in my mind, Dame wants to stay in Portland. He wants to win a title there. He has no desire to leave. But ever since the Blazers season ended with yet another play-in miss, Dame has changed his tune quite a bit. Obviously already expressing his lack of interest in looking to play with guys who are years out from truly competing, but also being a little cryptic with his tweets, especially after all this debate has come out on NBA discourse, whether the Blazers should trade the number 3 pick to get Dame another star or just trade Damian Lillard and start rebuilding from there. Where you had Damian Lillard say, if the fans want to trade me, start the petition and send it in. Now, he has been followed up by saying, hey, I've been on the same time for over a decade, but hey, if the fans don't want me, that's on them. And I can get the frustration on Lillard's side saying, hey, I've been with this team for over a decade now. I've been nothing but loyal to the franchise. I've played my ass off. If the fans are wanting me gone, then so be it. But at the same time, And I feel like Lillard is using this as a means to push himself out, saying it's the fans that made me request a trade, when in reality, I think deep down, Dame wants to leave, and he's kind of known this for a while. I mean, look, no offense to the Blazers as a franchise. I grew up in Oregon, lived in Portland for 2 years. Oregon will always be my home, but this franchise has not been able to win at the highest level. And when you're a superstar in a small market, and you're looking around at this roster, they traded CJ McCollum. Years prior, LaMarcus Aldridge walked in free agency when he was in his prime. You look at the roster now, a lot of young talent, project players who are years out from competing, while the Blazers finished with the 5th worst record in the NBA, 13th in the West. And if you're Dame, about to head into your 12th season, set to be 33, you know you only have so many good years left. Loyalty is only going to take you so far, and you reach a point where you want out and a real chance at a title. So despite the fact that the front office will look to keep Dame around, trade a package of picks and young players to get him some help, I think ultimately Dame is going to push his way out, despite the fact that Lillard might try and act like that's not the case. Because here's the other thing, realistically, what could the Blazers trade for with that 3rd pick and other pieces to get Dame to say, okay, yeah, this could work. I can see a path of us winning a title. A return that is enticing enough to keep Dame to want to stay in Portland and truly believe that this could be a title contending team. I know Bulls fans are getting excited about shipping DeMar DeRozan and maybe some other pieces for the 3rd pick, but I can't see the Blazers thinking DeMar puts them over the top, and doubtful that DeMar at his age is worth giving up the number 3 pick in the draft for. Maybe Zach LaVine, younger, but I don't know that Zach really has the IQ as well as the veteran leadership that the Blazers would be looking for, where they feel that that's a title piece to put them over the top. Maybe you include Vucevic in a sign and trade as well with DeMar, but again, if Vuce and DeMar or Vuce and LaVine haven't been working in Chicago, what makes you think that things are going to suddenly change in Portland with Damian Lillard, especially considering Dame, like DeMar and Zach, is a ball-dominant, heavy volume scorer that likes to play with the ball in his hands. But the Bulls aside, what other star or stars out there that could actually be on the trading block that would keep Dame happy if they joined him in Portland? Draymond Green could be a player on the move if he declines his player option, but again, another player past his prime is going to want too much money and doesn't move the needle for them. Not only that, but it's not like the Blazers have a ton of cap space to work with if we're strictly talking about signing free agents. Does a player like James Harden get the Blazers there? I don't see it, especially since he'll also be looking for a big payday. How about a guy like Pascal Siakam if the Raptors look to blow up their team? Would be a nice addition and would fit better than the players I just mentioned, but still not enough to get them over the hump. Now, Jimmy Butler was one guy I would have said they should look at when going towards the end of the regular season and things were looking a little bleak for the Miami Heat, but now after the Heat have looked locked in the playoffs and Jimmy playing out of his mind, not a chance the Heat look to move him. Maybe Julius Randle? Okay, that was a joke. I mean, maybe if the Clippers look to blow things up, they could go after one of Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, but those guys are always injured, never available in the playoffs. And again, realistically, I don't see a world in which the Blazers, even despite having the number 3 pick, would have enough assets to entice the Clippers to move on from Kawhi Leonard. You're talking about the number 3 pick, at least another first-round pick, and probably Simons, Shaedon Sharpe at a minimum. And at that point, is it worth it to give up all of that for an injury-prone Kawhi Leonard who is in his 30s? I don't know, I just don't see a world in which the Blazers could make a legitimate trade that would instantly put them into title contention, because it's not like they're going to be able to make a trade for players like Giannis, Embiid, LeBron, Jokic, Tatum, or even Luka. Those guys are untouchable for their teams. So while yes, the Blazers sure can get some talent, some bigger names and a star or two, but not players that are going to suddenly make them a title team. And because the path isn't there, I see Dame asking out and requesting a trade. Now, it's very possible you guys are seeing something that I'm not. Maybe I'm forgetting some players, star players who could be on the chopping block that would actually put the Blazers as one of the top teams in the NBA if they were to get said player. So let me know in the comments who you guys think could get it done, keeping Lillard happy and staying put in Orlando. But I think at the end of the day, keeping the pick, drafting either Scoot or Brandon Miller, whoever's available at 3, continuing to build on the talent they have with Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and using whatever return they get back in trading Lillard, whether it be for picks or young players, and start focusing on a new direction, a new chapter for this franchise. Let me know what you guys think. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.